All right, welcome back with more meetings of the minds. The entertainment sector navigating COVID-19. We just heard from Amali Amini, and I want to take this moment to apologize to those of you who've been watching and listening online, who are experiencing some audio difficulties. But we're back now. And we're going to continue. As Amali was saying, we have been seeing the effects of the COVID-19 and the restrictions on all parts of the entertainment sector, particularly those that depend greatly on the gathering of people together. And he mentioned some of the persons and some of the disciplines that have really been affected. I'd like to hear now from DJ Woodis, who is an advocate for entertainers, an advocate for the arts, an advocate for DJs, who is an accomplished DJ himself. DJ Woodis, tell me, how has COVID-19 really affected you as a DJ and your colleagues?
Well, that's a real good question, you know. I guess me and the whole panelists could debate the same thing, because it's like our industry was shut first, last to open, and I don't think there is any how must I put this nicely so I don't offend the people out there. There's no remorse for us. They just look at us. Oh, then there are a bunch of people who just play a little bit of music. But there is no pace, and there is the Ministry of Entertainment. I don't want to be like everybody, so I gonna take the blows for everybody. I yet to see from the ministry's end who's their PS. What are the short-term goals, the long-term goals? I live in Nevis. Where is the Ministry of Entertainment office in Nevis, so I could lodge some complaints? What are their phone numbers that I could call? Things like these. So I welcome the Ministry of Entertainment. I welcome pace, but I ain't seen no works from them up to now. So my pocket getting damaged. Understand me? All entertainers feeling the squeeze, in colloquial terms, but the Ministry of Entertainment is there. But December is going to make maybe a whole year, and the minister has keep meeting with all the various sectors that all the various hats that she holds. She keep meeting with the taxi and this and that and help, but she yet to keep a meeting with entertainers. Even if she just want to just keep a meeting, bring us in a room, give us some little bit of food and say, okay, yeah, we're going to think about it. Not even that. But she can jump up on a platform and say, oh, we sent out a survey and only 18 people. Like, really? Okay, cool. That's just my 2 cents in the chat. Pass on the mic to somebody.
All right, man. I think that a lot of us listening could really kind of relate to what you're saying. And that has been a discussion as well. The fact that the entertainment sector would be experiencing a downturn in revenue, just like any other industry. However, I think what makes it unique is that whereas some of the other industries are seeing a downturn because of a decrease in demand, that might not necessarily be the case in terms of entertainment. It is based on the stipulations placed on us. And we do understand the necessity given the present situation, but it is, as you're saying, very difficult, and any compensation, I'm sure, would not be just welcome, but as some people have been arguing, necessary. But I want to hear now from Corey, Massa Blue Tyson, and for those of you listening who may not be familiar, he's been in the music business since the age of 15, and he studied music production and sound engineering, and has been a member of several bands, both here in the Federation, but also abroad, including BQE, Odyssey, and Ultrasonics. He would have worked in media, in Nevis Television, THD Network, and is presently the culture manager at the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation. He actually owns Master Blues Country Kitchen, a production studio, as well as Core Entertainment, of which the ever popular Core Band is a subsidiary. Corey, from your perspective, as someone who is involved with persons who tend to be on stage, persons who are charged with entertaining crowds at these mass gatherings that for some time now have been really on the downturn. How has the COVID-19 situation affected you?
Well, it's no secret as sorry, good evening everybody. It's no secret. We've been hit really, really hard. Right? And we've been hit in such a way that many won't understand. Apart from the professional artist, the professional musician, the professional entertainer, we have the aspiring musicians. We have the aspiring entertainers, DJs, the school children who are learning the masquerade and so forth. And they're watching all of this and they're seeing that we've been hit really hard, and it's how it's taking a toll on it. And it's from speaking to a lot of the young people, it's casting doubts in their minds to whether or not this is all worth it. Even more so when you speak to some of the parents. So that is really, really a major concern for me. Yes, I feel it for us, the current crop of entertainers, but it's also having a severe effect on the future, right? And that's something that we really have to come to terms with and grasp. From the NCDF, the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation standpoint, that's something that we are really, really trying to deal with, and I know it's even more challenging for the average person. It's a lot of people don't understand, right? Our industry depends on mass gatherings, right? And with no mass gatherings, it makes it hard for us to operate. Yes, I could admit that we here in SKN, we would have dropped the ball, especially the artist side, on the musician side, on the band side. We'd have dropped the ball because we would have focused heavily on revenue from live entertainment, right? And we were using our music, our recorded music, as sort of a marketing tool, a promotional tool, and not really focusing on generating revenue from the recorded material, right? So yes, we would have dropped the ball. So now that we stripped away the live component of the industry, we were left with egg on our face, so to speak, right? However, I do believe that if it's one thing, I think the pandemic has put us into a position of awareness that part of our business really needs to be bolstered a bit, because we see the fragility of the live entertainment part of it. We don't know how long COVID is going to be with us. Seems to me that there is no clear plan for us. There is no clear plan for reopening our industry to its fullest. And man, I feel it. I feel it for persons in it who weren't as, by no fault of their own, not as versatile as some of us. For example, on the band side of things, Core Band would have would have performed maybe about what, 4 times, 5 times since last March, and that's 5 times more than many. 5 times more than many.
Wow.
Right. So, I'm thankful for that. But if I was solely dependent on that, I would have been in the same boat as many, and I feel it for them. I really, really feel it for them. I'm fortunate enough to would have had the little studio and had my hand in a little ad production here and there. So I was able to juggle and make and make up a little bit of the stagger, but it's been rough. I feel it. I mean, I spoke to Adrian not too long ago. It was maybe 2 days ago, and I feel it for you for you guys. So I know we'll touch on that a little more of it later on, but I guess that's my little intro.
Yeah, thank you so much. One of the things that you mentioned that I find so interesting is how what's happening now is impacting the view of the industry, even for those who may have had some interest moving forward, or parents of children who would have had interest in this field, seeing it as something that perhaps is very fickle now, and just looking on at what's happening. And I think sometimes we miss out on some of these dynamics, and maybe not recognize exactly how far-reaching the effects are. I'd like to hear, you mentioned Adrian just now, and Adrian Lamb is the owner of Toucan Sounds, a musician himself, has been involved in the production of several events put on by Toucan, as well as other entities, perhaps most notably the St. Kitts Music Festival, of which he was the production manager for many, many years. Adrian is one who has been a voice for the creatives, for the industry on a whole, for quite some time. And so, Adrian, I'd like to hear from you exactly, as someone who is involved in providing services to the industry, about how this pandemic has really impacted the business of persons like yourself.
Good evening, gentlemen. I hope you could hear me well.
Yeah, man, we could hear you.
Good. Good evening. This is a discussion that I'm very glad that we're doing it now. Maybe we should have done it before, but I don't think my view, a lot of people do not understand entertainment, all the facets of entertainment. And in a short, I'm trying to be as short as possible. The linkages into the economy, people don't understand. And COVID has just showed up and affected us, but not just the musicians and the entertainers and the production, and it has affected a lot of things. So the first thing I have here is entertainment is not really considered a legitimate industry. We are now starting up with a Ministry of Entertainment, but they're really trying to put together the pieces because they don't actually understand what is required. So we're going from ground zero. The musicians, entertainers, dancers, producers, all the parts directly in the music industry have been hit hard. But there are many other people who have been hit hard because the music industry is not functioning, working. Let's go from the biggest one, music festivals. So the tourists in the Ministry of Tourism has been affected greatly. The vendors of all sorts, from all types of events, have been affected. Hairdressers, people selling clothes, buses, transport, all the travel, hotels, all of these industries have been affected because entertainment is one of the major, if not the major driver of tourism. A lot of people don't understand around the world, the US collects more money from entertainment related activity than anything else. And this is one of the things we have to understand. Las Vegas is built on entertainment. And right now they're having some of the same problems that we have. New York, we have a lot of entertainment, and these entertainment capitals have been greatly affected. The functioning of the industry is a whole new world for the majors. But for us who now just learning how to do things, things have fallen apart. A lot of parents don't encourage their kids to get involved with any kind of arts related um, activities. And it's unfortunate. And now some of them are just starting to lean towards and see some of the benefits. The floor has fallen out because there is nothing. Mind you, there are lots of other people affected too, but they don't see it the same way. And like Woodis was saying, we were the first to be shut down. We probably will be last to open. So unfortunately, that's one of the things we have to contend. So the long-term view where they don't encourage people to get involved in the music business or the arts as a whole, the long-term view that is being reinforced, and people obviously, not taking this industry serious at the moment. And it's not just in St. Kitts, in the Caribbean and the wider world. The entertainment around the world used to rely on sales of music predominantly and live performances. In the last 2 years, it was dominated by live performances because with the advent of streaming, the collection of money for making recordings has diminished greatly. I'm sure Corey could back up that. And it's not just in our world, but even in the States, the streaming has lessened the income potential of recorded music. So therefore, most of the entertainers, from the biggest one to the small, rely on live performances to make money. So again, with no live performances, and again, like I'm saying, it's not just St. Kitts, but it's right around the world, we don't have a market. We don't have any activity, economic activity. So for me, it's a problem that's not going away in a hurry, but we have to start developing a plan, because with COVID, there was no blueprint. So we have a new adventure in terms of how we're going to deal with COVID. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert in the health, but I don't think COVID is going anywhere. It's going to keep changing and morphing. And we have to learn to live with it. So how we do that? We're going to have to get accustomed to following protocols we don't even have now, but we're going to have to start follow them. Are we going to have events where only vaccinated people will be allowed? There's one in Antigua coming up shortly. They did one already in St. Thomas. Are we going to follow that blueprint? They're doing it in Jamaica and Trinidad. Or are we going to have events where anybody can enter? And, so we have to look in our small arm of the world and start to decide how we're going to function. A lot of people don't want to take the vaccine, but on the other hand, is it fair to have everybody mix in? I mean, that's another issue. And some people I have a right, but everybody has a right. So you have a right to protect me, and I have a right to protect you. And where your right ends is where mine begins. So we have to really address these matters. But entertainment is going to be a rough road ahead. I am hoping that the future, maybe by Christmas we start to see some sun and we can start to have things happen. EPL is a start. The other thing is that with the movement of Delta into the region, I'm sure most of you know what's happening in DVI right now. It's really bad. Delta is going to move through the island slowly but surely. And when that comes in, it's not like the original COVID. This is serious stuff. And how is it going to affect us? We don't know. But when it gets there, we have to be ready. And that's another hard. So in the meantime, we have to start looking at how we're going to function. But I will close there for now, and we discuss these issues later now.
Thank you so much, Adrian. It's important to note that the onus is on us to really navigate the troubles going forward, and I think that is what we're trying to achieve here with this discussion tonight. And you started out your presentation just now by highlighting the fact that there's been persons in some of these linkage industries who have been affected by what's happening in the entertainment industry. And sometimes we do not take note. We see the people on stage, we remember the performers, and we remember the DJs and the promoters. But sometimes we forget that there are people who, we depend on to get things going. One of those categories is, of course, graphic artists, videographers, and photographers. And we have one such individual here to speak to us tonight, who is Mr. Garth Archibald, who he works as the lead graphic artist at Modern Printers. He has been an active photographer for 18 years. Garth, I didn't even know you're 18 yet, but he also owns Create One Media, and he continues to create through photography, videography, and audio production. Garth, I don't think a lot of people recognize the role that persons with your particular skill set play sometimes in the whole mass gathering. But I know for a fact that you also would have felt the effects of the closure of this particular industry. Tell us a bit about how that's affected you and your colleagues.
Good night, everybody. Gentlemen in the panel, how y'all doing? Explaining how COVID and the lockdowns have affected me and what I do and my business is a very long story that I don't have the time to do right now. What I will say is that what I do, mostly photography-wise, is capture all of these events, the events with Willis, the events with Adrian and Toucan, the events with Corban, Master Blue. We capture all of the images for all of these events. Now, if they don't have an event, I don't have a job, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
And that is the difficulty of the whole scenario. What I do centers around what they do. And if they're not allowed to do, then I can't do anything. Strangely enough, I had many things in the works 6 months prior to the COVID hitting and us locking down for the first time. And I went as far as to invest in equipment, open a studio, and now it literally shut everything down to zero. I watched all of my event coordinators call me and say, hey, that's it. We're done. We can't do nothing. And I just had to kind of go, okay, I understand. But everything that you already put in place so that you can provide that service for them spectacularly is now a weight that you have to bear. I don't know how else how people, I don't know how persons outside of the industry are coping completely, but I know that the guys who DJ, the guys who provide sound, the guys who provide lighting, the guys who do what Master Blue does, I know all of them hurting. And I could feel their pain 100%, and I am hurting on this end as well because of it.
Wow.
Now, say again?
No, continue.
Yeah. Now, you say that we're here now to discuss basically what we should do, or what can happen that would then help us in general. And I say us, you know, as prophetically as possible, because, you know, as much as I'm not a direct entertainer, I work in that entertainment industry as a secondary industry that, you know, works together with these guys. And you know, that symbiotic relationship with those gentlemen and how this works. I mean, every single body on this panel is somebody I rub shoulders with weekly, and those are my buddies, you know. When it comes to work, we always, you know, shoulder to shoulder. But now nothing's happening for them, and I have to feel it for them as well. And, you know, we're all stuck. We need to find a way forward in general, you know. And protocols, what they are, still we need to figure it out. And I agree with Master Blue, that with Corey, that the entertainment industry, the music was used as a marketing tool and not as a means to monetize or generate the income. That specific part of it needs to change somehow. Maybe not heavily, or maybe, you know, but it needs to change, because that's the only other way for things to still keep afloat if something like this ever happens. I don't know. So let's get into that discussion and see where we can go from there.
Yeah, and I think that is what's important, and that's really why we're here. We have recognized that as much as we have been blessed in some sense, meaning to some extent, you know, at some point over the last year, we have been allowed to have some events and do things on a smaller scale, way smaller than we would have done before. We are now looking towards reopening. We are on the cusp of having a cruise ship return to our shores tomorrow, and we know there are a lot of people who are looking forward to that, and hoping that's something that we could build on moving forward. I thought it was important that we discuss, as people in the industry, what we would like to see as it relates to the reopening of the industry, because it's obvious that we are all feeling the pinch based on the protocols, and as much as we say we recognize the necessity of those to try and keep everyone safe, we recognize that this cannot be what it is, and so we need to work together to try and to see a way forward. And so what I'll propose is a few of the suggestions that you know, Pace has been discussing, and I'd like to get some feedback from you guys about what the reopening of the sector may look like. One of the things that, and I think it may have been Adrian that had mentioned it, was that now that we have a vaccine, we are seeing some places opt for having parties where vaccinated persons are the ones who are allowed to enter. Even here, we are awaiting just over a month time the start of the CPL, and that is also an event that, with certain restrictions, is going to be allowed to happen, and some of those restrictions include a limit on the amount of persons that can enter the venue, as well as we would have discussed having vaccinated persons be the ones who are able to enter. I'm curious about how you feel about that. I'm personally, just to maybe spark the conversation, I believe that we need to be looking towards creating the world that we want to see. Do we want to see a world where persons are denied access to this or that because of their status. I do believe that may not be ideal. Some people think it's the only way to go. I personally, and I know for the group, we see that there might be other ways for us to navigate that and keep people safe. For instance, implementing things like perhaps the rapid test being implemented at the entrance for non-vaccinated persons as another measure for persons entering. Perhaps even just like entering the country, people are saying perhaps even allowing persons who would have had a negative PCR test to enter within a specific time. And one of the things that I really want to have spoken about a bit more is where do persons who we see are now recovering and would have then developed some natural antibodies to the virus, where do those people fall into the equation? And so how do you guys feel about the issue of vaccinated patrons only, and how we could maybe navigate that going forward? I'll start with you, Amali, as the one who would have to be making some of these decisions going forward as to what type of events you and your company wants to host. So how you feel about that?
Honestly, I don't have any particular feelings toward it. I am someone who was guided by the science, and if the science says it is safer for the country to restrict those who are unvaccinated from gathering massively, if that's even a word.
We could make it one tonight. Be creative.
Yeah, regular. Then I support it. However, I want to take a step back to some sentiments that Corey's comments and Garth's comments and even Adrian's comments left me feeling. Is that number one, we can't even begin to discuss and negotiate how entertainment is to retake its place in society, in the economy, without first addressing the fact that it's an industry that is undervalued and disrespected on a regular and consistent basis. That needs to be addressed first and foremost before we even talk about how we're going to reopen with entertainment. I mean, I haven't commented on the whole vaccine situation and the whole COVID-19 situation on social media since its inception. And it's for a reason. I won't get into that now. But I have seen the arguments and I've heard both sides of the story. I have many friends who are pro-vax. I have many friends who are anti-vax. I have many friends who are may sure yet.
Right.
Right? So I understand and appreciate all sides of the sphere for this whole vaccination and life over livelihood or livelihood over life debate, which is ensuing on social media on a regular, daily basis. At the end of the day, life must go on. The economy must move on because there are people that are legitimately hungry. And I'm not talking about hungry in a figurative way. I mean literally have nothing to eat on a daily basis in St. Kitts and Nevis and the Caribbean and the world. So we have to move forward in some way, shape, or form. So there's one, we need to give entertainment and the industry the respect it deserves, because there are many sub-industries that aren't necessarily within the industry that are affected by entertainment. And I think Garth touched that beautifully. Garth is a photographer. He has a photography firm. The average man or woman might not associate that with entertainment, but Garth eloquently put it in a way that is beautiful. If Amali or Azim or Cool Effect or Inception can't have an event, he can't work.
Mm-hmm.
Because photographers rely on a plethora of different kinds of events to survive.
Exactly.
There are weddings, there are anniversaries, there are funerals, and then there's entertainment. And they need all of them together to be able to pay their staff and pay their mortgages and feed their children. Right? So there's that. The industry needs the respect it deserves. There are photographers, there are hairdressers, there are nail salons, there are clothing stores. And let's not even talk about the bars. Just today, I had a conversation with a bar owner that has been closed since our first lockdown of this year. And he and I sat down and crunched numbers. I asked him, I said, boy, when you're reopening, if Timothy give us freedom this weekend, what are you going to do? Right? And it's easy to just say, as a policy maker, listen, the restrictions are relaxed so you can now reopen. But when you're talking to a small bar owner who hasn't opened for the last 6 weeks and has lost everything, you can't just say, okay, you can open now. Because he and I sat today and crunched the numbers. And it's going to cost a small bar owner, many of talking about vibes and oceans and catties on the beach and so. Right. We're talking about a bar smaller than that. It's going to cost him close to $10,000 just to reopen for business. And the question is, what is the government going to do for these small business owners who are involved in entertainment to help them get back on their feet? Because many of them are dead. Completely shot. And he told me today that if something isn't done or if assistance isn't brought forth by the government to help small businesses in the community at large, not just entertainment, to get back on their feet, he's not going to reopen. And he has a staff of 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 people. So the question is, what is our government going to do? And I know COVID-19 isn't the government's fault, but other sectors of the economy are being given assistance to get on their feet. A stimulus was announced a few weeks ago in terms of getting money in the hands of people who haven't worked in the last 3 months so they can get a little food on their table. But what about the small business owners who actually employ those same people to get back on their feet? Because it's one thing to say, I'm going to give you $1,000 to buy food for the month of August, September, and October. But if the company that employed you can't restart, what will happen to September, October, November, and December, and beyond? I'm not seeing the longevity in the planning. I'm not seeing it. And secondly, the first point was, obviously, the industry needs the respect it deserves. And secondly, we've come to a point where we can't hold strain any longer. Dr. Wilkinson said last year, let's hold strain until the vaccine comes so we can take the vaccine and blah, 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 X, Y, Z. The vaccine is the first line of defense. No problem. But we have come to a point now we can't wait any longer. We can't afford any more lockdowns. People will literally go hungry. Companies will literally go belly up if we have to lock down again. And some already have. So my response to patrons being vaccinated to allow entry is this. The facts are there. The research is there. The information is there regarding the vaccines, etc., etc. I'm fully vaxxed. I have friends and family who aren't. At the end of the day, we're all big people. And we have made our choice. Some people are still undecided, and that's fine. But the people who have decided not to be vaxxed have made their choice, And the people who are vaxxed have made their choice. And as adults, we must live with our choices. So if the rule of the day is moving forward, the economy is open, there's no more quarantine upon arrival at the airport once you're vaccinated, events are for fully vaxxed only, XYZ, then that's what it has to be. But I don't want to hear anybody complaining about being attacked or, what's the word they use, victimized because they aren't vaxxed. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Well, that's interesting, you know, Melly, because you know, I think that there are a lot of people who then point out, you know, there's some among us who, for one reason or the other, may not be. And like I said, there's also the discussion about persons who would have already gotten the virus and would have developed antibodies.
Right.
But I want to hear from some of the other panelists. DJ Woodis, what's your view on in terms of moving forward and who's allowed who we're allowed to entertain at these events?
Well. I'm not gonna say so much words like Amali, and I know me is a no-nonsense kind of guy. I'm gonna just try me 2 cents. That is utter rubbish. You want me to tell you why? CPL is coming, and they're gonna say only vaccinated people could go. But why is it you're only using half of the venue? If you so feel that that the vaccine is good and is working, you're supposed to have a big fet and say, yeah, CPL, everybody go ahead. Yeah, I mean, that is stupidness if you're gonna start to borderline people and say, boy, oh, only vaccinated people could start a party. So what about somebody who wants to get vaccinated but have underlying issues, like maybe they got blood clot in their family and these kind of things? They ain't saying they ain't want to take it, you know. They're saying because of issues relating to them health-wise, they can't take it. A mother who is pregnant, so she can't go and walk up for the last before she gets her big belly. Like this, I don't think that the government is thinking rational, and I don't want to be political or anything, but these are facts. Just like when you got Inception, Cool Effect, and all these things, they got VIP, we'll just say, moving forward, we have a vaccinated section and an unvaccinated section. Simple, because look at it. Businesses are saying, oh, if their employees are not vaccinated, they're not taking them back to work. Okay, cool, that's your choice. But how come you not say, well, if you're not vaccinated, you can't come in business place? We got to be rationally thinking. How come they ain't saying, okay then, the biggest movement of people other than entertainment is buses? How come they not say, if you're not vaccinated, don't travel on a bus? So the whole thing about vaccinated versus unvaccinated when it comes to entertainment is utter rubbish.
What is?
To me, that's my 2 cents.
What is?
I ain't talking for all DJs, I ain't talking for all bandman. I talking for you. What is?
No problem. What is? May I please interject here?
Yeah, I'll be shortly.
Put in your 2 cents.
What is my buddy from Nevis?
It's convenient. Don't forget that part.
No problem. What is? There is something called mitigating risk. And what we have learned, whether you want to believe it or not, and that's a personal preference, is that people who are vaccinated pose a significantly lower risk of transmitting and acquiring the virus, if they are, compared to persons who are not. The CMO and Dr. Cameron Wilkinson and the PM and everybody else, Minister of Health, has said over and over again, and we know it as well, that the health resources in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis has its limits. So if we're going to allow people who are unvaccinated to gather massively in their tens and their hundreds and their thousands, knowing that the risk of transmission is basically 100% as opposed to, 15% if you're vaccinated, based on the science, then we are going to overwhelm our health sector in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Could I interject?
Hold on, one more point. The issue with that is when JMF and Alexandra are overrun with COVID-19 cases, when my grandmother and your auntie and Jade mother and Azim father, who are senior citizens in this country, have other health issues like diabetes and strokes and asthma, etc., even our kids who have conditions that need medical assistance, go to JMF and go to Alexandra and can't get any medical attention because our hospital is overrun with COVID-19 patients, who are you going to blame when your daughter or your mother dies on the JMF lawn on the Ellen Main Road? And that's the question I have for you.
My turn to interject now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Quickly with this.
You sound like them man just spitting on your mouth and say that. Brother man, you
With
said...
this, we're debating facts. We're not in the personal insults.
Okay, hold on. You said a while ago that you have family who are not vaccinated.
Yes.
And you vaccinated.
Yeah.
So it's a personal choice. So if I want to go jump up because me ain't vaccinated, that is my personal choice.
Yeah, so then if you catch COVID-19, no problem. So if you catch COVID-19 and you're at home and can't breathe, don't go to JMF. Stay home and dead.
But listen to
And
me.
that's my argument.
All right, guys.
You cannot say it's your personal choice if you want to go out and catch COVID-19, but then when you catch it, you want to burden the economy and burden the healthcare system. That is selfishness.
But hold on.
What is? I'm gonna have to see if any of our any of our other panelists want to interject quickly. Also, I think it's important that we are conscious of the time and so make your points as concise and precise as possible. In regards to who is allowed to enter these events, who any of the other panelists want to make a point?
I was just gonna briefly support Amali. I like how Amali made the point just now. And the view that Woodis has, I hear people making it all the time, but I think it's an unreasonable view, because where my rights begin is where yours end. Your rights does not infringe on my right. So if you come into my space, you interfere with my right. And if you have functions where both vaccinated and unvaccinated mixing up together, the unvaccinated are going to pose a problem. If anybody gets sick, then, what they're going to do? Next minute you hear somebody so promoter, and these are things that we have to avoid. You're going to make things worse rather than better. So we have to have a policy, and we have an opportunity in the entertainment fraternity to help set the policy and the way forward. And that's the whole point of this discussion tonight.
Yeah.
That's where we want to go. What is the view going forward? We can't have rights like we were 2 years ago when nothing was here. Those rights gone out the window. It's a whole new world. That's what we got to understand. When leprosy was here, nobody used to mix with the lepers.
Exactly.
The lepers had a home down in Sandy Point. You put them down there, and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Well, now that we have this, we have to protect ourselves, and both vaccinated and unvaccinated have to protect themselves.
Yeah.
But it can be business as usual.
I agree there. It can't and it won't be business as usual. Amali made a point there that many small businesses are already gone belly up, and some are on the verge. Same can be said about many of our live entertainers. Many of the smaller bands and so forth, many of the guys who may have had a little juggling, doing with a like a part-time job sort of thing, and still doing their music thing. The music thing gone out the window, the part-time job thing gone out the window, and they have no other resort other than to get like a 9-to-5. And having a regular 9-to-5 or getting a job that's on a shift doesn't really lend to them being a part of a band or doing the type of gigs and so forth that they would want to do if we open up. So those are some of the real challenges that I'm already seeing around here in Nevis. Now, the point of the panel, I think we are to be discussing the way forward. So some ideas out there of the way forward. But before we can do that, I believe we got to have some real serious conversations so that we can base our policies on and so forth. First and foremost, we have to come to the conclusion on whether are we choosing to believe the science, are we going to believe the science or not, right? Are we going to just go with our gut feeling, or are we going with the facts? Are we going to choose real news versus fake news? What are we going to be basing our policies on? Because if it's on science, then it should be pretty straightforward, right? If we're going to go and be basing the policies based upon the latest meme I got in my WhatsApp inbox, no, that's going to be challenging, right? So if you're going to choose the science, what are the options really, right? Automatically, social distancing out the window. That can't happen, right? You can't say you're going to force people to go to a fete in their mask. That ain't gonna happen either.
Never.
Right? So what does that what does that really leave us? Are we really gonna go down the route of trying to do the whole segregation thing, where you have a vaccinated section only, unvaccinated section only?
Can happen.
Then what are the numbers for the unvaccinated? 150 people?
Two.
What? With social distancing? How are we going to do that realistically, right? Are we as patrons, as the general public, are we willing to accept the additional costs? As he made a point about rapid testing, right? Rapid testing comes at a cost, right? So we are accustomed to going and paying for a really nice fete, $100, $150, right? Somewhere around there for a decent fete, right? Are we gonna tack on the price for a rapid test for everybody onto that? Or is it gonna be, well, okay, well, if you're vaccinated, your ticket price is XYZ. If you're not, then you have to get a rapid test, and now your ticket price is twice the amount. What are the options really? And I don't think that when we have our discussions, even if it's just on the corner, whether it's in a WhatsApp group or on social media, I don't think that we're having real, honest conversations. We're going and we're debating by emotion, our gut feeling, and so forth. And we can't do that. We can't, otherwise we're going to be spinning in the mud. We ain't going to get nowhere. Because we're going to we'll come up with a proposal based upon the science. And then somebody's going to say, well, Dr. Fauci lie, this lie, blah, 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 blah. So we're back to square one.
Right. I think what's important as you talk about the science, I think it's important for us to recognize that we do have these tools, and I do believe to not use the tools at our disposal would not be in our best interest. I do believe none of us here sees a situation where, as much as we may advocate for having vaccinated only events, for that being the way forward for all time. And so there must be, of course, then some trigger that would allow us to say move forward past that, if that is the case. However, as I was suggesting, as we've been seeing in some of the other countries, where they're able to coordinate the information and the data, for instance, who is vaccinated versus who is unvaccinated, who's done a negative test at what time, who has had the virus, who's now recovered. that information, I think, can be used to inform how we move about and operate in our daily lives. But before you come in, Amali, what I realize has been coming up as well has been the whole issue of caps on people and people gathering. We've seen prior to the last series of lockdowns, prior to the community spread, we have had caps and limits on attendance and attendees at events. We had, I think it was a maximum of 100 people for indoor events and a maximum of 150 depending on the size of the venues, of course. We are now moving out of this current lockdown and going into something else where, if we use CPL as an example, where we are having 50% of the maximum cap being allowed to enter the venue. How do you feel about that as a model going forward? And to be as clear as I can be, allowing 50% of the maximum limit of the venue to attend some of these events, as opposed to just limiting it at 150 or 100, no matter the size of the venue. Who wants to respond? Adrian?
Yeah. It's going to be a progression. I don't think right now we have the 100 and 150 that they've been doing. I think the next step, and CPL is going to do that, where 50% of the venue size would be allowed in. I believe we could kind of approach that. But that doesn't mean that 6 months after that, if all goes well, that we don't open at 75 or maybe 100. But it's going to be a slowly opening process that's going to occur for us to get back to 100%.
What? But excuse me though. What do you believe would be some of the things that may trigger us moving from, say, a cap, no matter on the type of event or the venue, to, let's say, a 50%, let's say to a 75%, and then of course to 100. What are some of the things that you think should be considered?
Well, it will be the operation of how COVID is affecting us. If it gets worse, we might have to retract. If it gets better, then we could open up. I think that would be the major consideration. For the entertainment producers and of events and so on, then the main drive is that you can't have certain events because the dance can't play for the lights. So Amali can have a fete if he limits to 150 people. So he can't pay what he would normally do. And this is the problem with entertainment. You can't go where we used to be because we're restricted by size and the number of people you can accommodate in a venue. So it's really a catch-22. And, I don't think we're not going from 0 to 100 in a shot. It's going to take a while for us to reach back to 100% of whatever that is. So they might evaluate a venue and say, well, okay, you go hold 1,000 people, or you hold 1,000 people, yes, let's cover that. And therefore, we're going to allow it 500 for now. Mm-hmm. And as things develop, they might say 750, and then you get the full 1,000 once this whole situation abates in the future. I don't think COVID going anywhere. We're going to have to live with it. And therefore, the way we function is going to be different. And that's my difference of opinion. We say, a lot of people expect that things will continue the same way they used to be 2 years ago. And that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We have to function in a whole new way to accommodate this disease in our between us. And it's not just in St. Kitts. Right now, the whole of the US is red because a lot of the areas where they haven't been vaccinated are really getting bad. There've been some major events in the US. There was the basketball the other night. The stadiums were filled. People were in the streets all over the place. People are watching to see if there's going to be a surge because of those events. It might not be. Let's hope they don't. So therefore, we have to look at the same thing. If they allow 10,000 people to go into the park during the cricket, you don't know what's going to happen. We could have an outbreak.
Right.
And You know, so we have to be very careful and we have to be cautious. Yes, I want the industry to be able to function, but we have to. It's not going to be an immediate process. We have to have a slowly opening of the valve.
It seems as though if we were to design something that could cripple the entertainment industry, this would tick all of the boxes. It seems as though this has been tailor made for because of the nature of the virus, the way it spreads and so forth. That gathering in mass is really something that we have to limit. But Coriana, you were about to say something. Make your point quickly, please.
I just wanted to sort of be clear on Adrian's point. Adrian, are you suggesting that the one of the first phases should be capped events?
Well,
as capacity?
Yes. What's happening with CPL, from my understanding, they're allowing 50% of the venue size. There are two constraints: 50%, and in order to enter, whether to work or to watch the games, you must be vaccinated. Those are the two major criteria. There are probably others, but those are the two major criteria. I think if the entertainment industry, since we have a blueprint now, say, okay, can we have events where the venue size, we have 50% and we can proceed? At least it's a start. Maybe 6 down the line, it might open up if nothing happens.
Correct.
For vaccinated and unvaccinated? Just
no,
wanted
the blueprinting for the CPL is vaccinated only. Right?
Okay.
It's going to be a very hard sell to have unvaccinated and vaccinated mix. That's going to be a very difficult thing.
All right. Yeah, I understand. I think that's something that's really going to be up for debate.
But Azim,
yeah.
Could I just
sure.
throw a question out to the panel? Let's say the proposed model that we are trying to come up with is to include both vaccinated and unvaccinated, right? How do we proceed with that? Let's put some things on the table. How do we proceed with having a FET? Let's set a cap, 200 people, right? We're having an event, 200 people. How do you plan that event and run that event for both?
Well, I do believe, like I've mentioned before, that looking at what is happening in some of the other countries is something that we could take a look at. It is, as Amali mentioned earlier, about mitigating risk, and I do believe there's ways to do that outside of simply vaccinated. If we want to see a future where vaccinated and unvaccinated, let me put it this way, where your vaccination status isn't the only thing that allows you to partake in some event. Bear in mind that I do believe that a promoter would still have the option to decide who comes to his event, just like any other stipulation, whether it's ticket price, whether it's outfit choice, whether it's all of these things. But if we are saying we're trying to mitigate the risk, for instance, we spoke about rapid testing, and contrary to popular belief, the rapid test actually aren't that expensive. I had a friend who recently just traveled home with a box of them and just testing himself like his lollipops, just to make sure he was good while he was in quarantine. And just like how the vaccination does give you great protection about contracting and spreading the disease, the argument is being made that the rapid test at 100%, I think it's something like 98%. And I believe, not even outside of entertainment, that this is something that if you have these tools, we say we're fighting a war, if we have these weapons, then we need to integrate them into the battle. I do believe that it is important moving forward, like I said, that we create databases using all the information that we have. We have the technology. I think it's important that we incorporate that. And so having persons be able to present, I think in France, for instance, to enter a mass event, and also in places like even here in the Caribbean, in Guadeloupe, where they're using they're calling it the health passport, which really allows persons to upload, for instance, a test result that would have been done within the last 72 hours, or even, like I said, persons who would have had the disease would have recovered, and so would have some natural immunity to the disease. They as well are able to prove that status using their passport and enter into social gatherings. So I think these are things that we can look at as a model moving forward. Perhaps it's and I don't think any of these things go, like they operate in a vacuum. For instance, I do believe sanitization stations still should come into play. I do believe that, as Adrian is suggesting, some cap and a path to full occupancy is something that we need to discuss and determine exactly what are the triggers that would allow us to go from, say, the 100 and the 150 to 50% to 75%. And then, of course, all of us want to see us get to a place where we could get to full occupancy. So I think being able to utilize all these tools that we have at our disposal is very important, because I think for me what's important is moving not short-sightedly, but moving in a way we know what we want to see. We want to see a situation where at some point, no matter your status, we can socialize, we can enjoy entertainment no matter what it is. And so finding out the best pathway to that, I think, is what we're here discussing. Amali?
Yeah, but a few things to respond to your question about initially when you asked about people who were exposed to the virus, what is the way forward for them? And I was recently speaking to a friend of mine in Canada. She's in Toronto. She did mention to me that in some places in Canada and in Europe, people who have already had the COVID-19 virus are only required to get one shot.
One shot, yeah.
Of the AstraZeneca, for example.
Yeah.
And the other vaccines that have, a 2-shot recommendation. And secondly, I want to make a statement that people who live in democracies need to understand. And that is, there is no room for individuality in a democracy. Governments are tasked with making decisions that are in the best interest of the majority of the population of any given democracy, no matter what it is. Right? So people who are in the minority, regardless of what the circumstances may be, cannot take it personal and should not. I shouldn't say cannot because they will. They should not.
I was about to say.
Yeah, but should not and ought not take it personal when the government decides to sideline your views in the interest of the country at large. That's my second point. Thirdly, in terms of reopening, the only concern I have with regard to reopening entertainment and the economy at large is our healthcare system. The Prime Minister, the task force, and several doctors who I've spoken to on several occasions have indicated, and they're all singing the same song. Our healthcare system cannot and will not stand up to a mass increase and outbreak in hospitalizations as it relates to COVID-19. The system will buckle. And therefore, and that is a fact, ain't no question, we have a certain amount of ventilators, we have a certain amount of doctors and nurses, and we must take that into consideration. And we can't overbear it. Because what's going to happen is that if our healthcare system is overborne, if that's even a word, with COVID-19, if my daughter or your son or Jade's son or whoever it is has an asthma attack and we go to JNF or we go to Alexandria or we go to Poxon, we won't be able to get service. And then you have other people and families and communities with other health issues that don't relate to COVID-19 not getting attention and all of a sudden it's the government fault again.
Mm.
That is a fact. Also, life itself is about cause and effect. The other day I was speaking to a friend of mine in Anguilla, and she's telling me, she doesn't want to take the vaccine and thing. I said, well, that's perfectly fine. If you don't feel comfortable, that's fine. Don't take it. I have taken the vaccine. I have never encouraged anyone to take it. I have never told anyone not to take it. All I've told my friends and family and my colleagues is do the research, and if you're uncomfortable, do what is for you. If you're uncomfortable, do what's for you. However, life is about cause and effect. Yes, there are risks to every decision that we take. I chose to take the vaccine, and I run the risk of my children in 5 years being born with 3 eyes and 4 legs. That is fine. I've taken that risk. So people who are unvaccinated and chosen not to take the vaccine needs to also accept the risk associated with the decision, which is you will be left out.
Or you would you stand a better chance of contracting the virus itself.
Yes, and even if you do catch it and survive, you stand a higher chance of getting
seriously
horrible
ill.
conditions.
Yeah, seriously ill. Yeah.
Right? Getting seriously ill. And people need to accept these risks. So that's why I don't argue with folks who choose not to get vaccinated. I say I understand your concern because
the results of the risk assessment may just be different to yours.
Exactly. And that is the way of life. People have argued with me, Amali, companies are closing down, people ain't making no money, blah, 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 blah. And my response to them is, that is inevitable. There is nothing me or you or Timothy Harris or Joe Biden or Vladimir Putin can do to avoid the repercussions or the effects of a global pandemic. People are going to die. People are going to lose their jobs. People are going to go hungry and starve to death. And like what you said before, Azim, it is all about mitigating these risks and charting the best course possible to avoid all these horrible repercussions of COVID-19.
Right. Yeah, with this, I know you have a very pointed finger up. So what is it that you want to add?
Once ago, right, when they say like you're on an island stranded and you want to have a long conversation with somebody without boring yourself to death, they say you could talk about sex, politics, and religion. And I think they should add the next one to it, COVID. Because if you check the time now, we passed 8:30. We're supposed to finish at 9, and we realize we're on one topic. So it's all about meeting of the minds, and my mind and Corey mind and God mind and everybody else mind might be different, because at the end of the day, it still boils down to my choice. We're in the 21st century. We're not back in the days when they had leprosy. Back in the days of leprosy, the people who had it had no choice, because there wasn't no, how must put this? There wasn't nobody to fight for them. So they just tuck them away and they got to take it. 2021, if we decide we not take them, we can manfully say, we could get a lion fight for us. Yeah, it might take a little time. Because just like how we used to always say, ganja will never get legalized in St. Kitts Davis. Take one Rastaman from down there, but to just challenge the government. Take a little bit of time, but you could kind of puff pass and smoke with your 16 grams or whatever it is. So as time goes along, and this too shall pass. So I think we should move on to the next topic, because at the end of the day, it is just up to me if I want to take it or not.
Yes.
And it still boils down to the government to say, half percentage, not half percentage, half of the
50%.
Right. And we're here for meeting of the minds, and I want to chat the entertainment ministry tonight.
Well, with this, to be honest, as we're discussing, what we want to do here is to really create a discussion about, as persons involved in the entertainment sector, where we would like to see, the next steps in terms of moving forward and opening up. That's kind of where we're going. One of the things that I know has been a hot topic amongst professionals, and I use that word purposefully, is the fact that we have seen permits being given for events for persons who may not necessarily be registered as promoters, as persons who are licensed to put on these types of events. Where this comes in the context of COVID-19 especially is we have seen where the actions of some of these persons would have affected the decision and policy making that then affects all persons in the industry. And when I've asked the question of the powers that be, sometimes you get answers like, "Buy man got to make a food" and things like that. But I think what's happening is it's actually affecting persons who have tied their livelihoods to this particular sector in a very negative way. How do you guys feel about that? Some would call the fly-by-night events and promoters, and how that affects us, especially as it relates to the policy making moving forward in COVID-19.
What is?
Okay. I'm gonna say some things now. We're gonna offend some people, but this is just my belief.
Say it still.
Understand me? Just like how with everything we say, by overseas, this is how they do it. Overseas, this is how they do it. And we hear overseas, if you want to keep a dance, you have to have a specific license. Here, anybody could just keep a dance and don't have the license. And the flip side of that, even if you have the license, you and the person who don't have the license on the same page. Because, case in point, I have a sporting and entertainment license. And people who do not have it, have none. Me and them on the same page, I can decide, okay, I can say, I'm going to put down my license when I go to the police, and they say, okay, then let me give preferential treatment to this because he have a license. A man who ain't got a license and me and the same thing, if the police don't like me, by not who this, by BPO this, not you. And they don't like that other man. So if you want to start that, conversation, we need to get everything on a level.
Man, we disagree on that.
Yeah, I suspect. I see even Garth shaking his head. Garth, how you feel about the freelancers?
What is that we can do?
People ain't gonna like it because they're gonna say, "Oh, me gotta pay the government taxes." But hey, what you doing? You're making money. Understand me? Putting it in your pocket and you ain't giving back the economy nothing.
But they want the wood fix on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like they want the 5-finger discount and main for that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
Selfish.
it's gonna ruffle some feathers. But I think if you want to be a promoter, understand me, whether a fly-by-night, even if you want to be a fly-by-night promoter, just like if you're going to have an event and you don't have a liquor license, there's a process that you go through and get a temporary liquor license. So if you want, and you pay a small change. So if you want to be a fly-by-night promoter, nothing wrong with that. Everybody got a hustle, but put something in the coffers.
Yes.
Because a man like me who pay me entertainment license yearly, and you on the same thing. So I believe, I mean, that's just my 2 cents, eh? I don't know if Corey want to try something in it.
Good point, Woodis, Amali. However, nobody like to lose money. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody want to spend money. And if God, who hasn't been paying taxes, have to start paying taxes, that extra money ain't coming out of God's pocket. So you know what's going to happen? He going to pass on that cost to his customers. Customers ain't going to like that. Mm-hmm. Same thing with, let's say if we decided, okay, the new route is PCR tested. Yeah. That cost going to get passed on to the customer, right? Reduce capacities at a venue. If you want to see Farmer Nappy, and Farmer Nappy is charging 10 grand, and you could cover that with 1,000 people paying $10, you can't have 1,000 people now. So guess what? 500 people now have to pay $20. Right? And I end with where I started on this point is, what are we as the general public, what do we want to accept? Do we want to accept the fact that ticket prices admission prices will go up. Do we want to accept and deal with that or no?
Well, Corey, I'll be honest with you. I hold a different view there. And the point is, I do not believe that any costs, any incurred costs, or extra costs, if you want to call it that, must be passed on to the patron. The reason being, I do believe that as it stands now here in St. Kitts in particular, I've been privileged enough to be able to travel and go to events all around the world. St. Kitts is very unique in terms of what is offered to sponsors and the corporate community and what they pay for it. I believe what needs to happen is that promoters in particular need to meet with, for instance, I'll give you an example. You have situations that are accepted here where a corporate sponsor would give you literally 0.2% of the cost of the event and expect maximum
Title sponsorship.
the title sponsorship and promotion. I think the model itself I think the model itself is what needs adjusting, and I do believe that we do have the power to do so.
But Azim, even so, if we're gonna pass on the cost to our corporate sponsors, they're gonna pass on the cost to the customers. Somebody gonna pay for it, and it ain't gonna be the owners of our corporate sponsors.
Well, again, like I said, I'm only going based on what is globally accepted. I do believe that St. Kitts is unique. St. Kitts is unique in this. I think what has to happen is that we get on board in terms of what is best practice, what is long established and aligned. I think that is one of the reasons that we are going back. Because the truth is, Corey, I do not believe that the promoters would even make the choice that you're suggesting. I believe the easier choice would be to somehow pay the performers and the entertainers less. I think that is where a lot of persons would go.
Let me turn on my mic to laugh.
but God, I saw I saw you shaking your head. Is this something that you were agreeing with?
I'm gonna tell you that suggestion probably not gonna fly. Paying them less? No, I don't think. The local performers here get paid, minimum at best. So for you to cut it down.
And the service providers.
Huh?
And the service providers.
Exactly. So for you to cut it down any more to please your sponsor would be torturous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to interject here. The cost of entertainment, and that's entry, tickets, and so prices in St. Kitts and Nevis, is one of the lowest in the Caribbean. When you look at what you pay at the music festival and what you get, it's very, very low compared to other islands. I mean, I know in other islands it's $200 US a ticket in some places a night.
Yeah.
Easily.
So therefore, what you're getting in most cases way exceeds what you're paying for. And if we're gonna really have a proper industry, we have to have a system where people get business licenses. I am hoping, yes, some of the entry taxes, the VAT would be removed at some point in order to encourage the industry. I believe that should happen. But I also believe that to get that, you must pay a business license.
Correct.
And therefore, if you don't have a business license, you can't have a VAT.
Well, Adrian, there was something that was happening last year, right? Well, not just Adrian, but the whole panel.
Yes, not too long ago, actually.
There was something, mainly if you're talking about the same thing, but there was something that was happening last year that they found was a loophole around the whole acquiring a license or having a license in order to host events. Is that every time somebody had a birthday.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It was a huge bash.
It's a birthday bash and you pay to come to my birthday.
A paid event. So imagine Jade as a promoter who has a license, right? Or doesn't have a license, for example, and wants to do an event, but she can't. All she has to do is tell the police force, it's my birthday next week, and I'm having a bash. And I can charge folks for my bash.
Then all he or she has to do is get a temporary license. Just
Exactly
like if
what
you
it is.
want-
Right.
Right. But that doesn't exist too. So
Right.
there
No,
needs to
no,
be
no, no, no,
things.
no. Just like
I
if I
mean,
have an event and I don't have a liquor license, I could get a temporary liquor license. But if you
Exactly.
they come
It's
once a
same
year
Right.
and you want to keep a bash,
Right.
understand me? Once you collect money,
that-
you get temporary.
Yeah.
Amali, that apply in some of the other islands. If you want to have a party in Trinidad, you got to get a license.
Yes.
Private, or public.
What I do and what I do.
A license for the music you can play too.
Right.
Right.
I think that's one of the things that we need to really stress. And again, I keep saying this. How do we want this thing to look, and we put things in place to get there. The time is wrapping up and coming to an end, and I want us to touch on a
We start
few.
late too, the audio, so we could go for a little bit.
But yeah, one of the things that we've been discussing, as a group, has been one of the issues we've had at some of these mass gatherings, with dealing with the compliance force, the compliance team, and the task force, and recognizing that there must be an easier way for us to liaise with those individuals. One of the suggestions coming out of those discussions has been, an assigned liaison for each event, whether it is one of the police officers that has been assigned to the event, or perhaps even if that's not available, the promoter, the event organizer, the event coordinator being able to suggest someone who is there, who understands, one, what is the responsibility of the event coordinator, the promoter, and who could then liaise with the compliance team if they were to come and do their checks. Because sometimes what I find happens is the compliance team will come and do their checks. There's certain protocols, there are things in place, whether it is a cap, like we discussed, 100, 150, whether it is to have certain sanitization measures, non-pharmaceutical protocols, or, for instance, just the behavior of the patrons in terms of wearing masks and social distancing and whatever it is. But you come at a certain time and you really don't have a feel for how the event has evolved, what has been done to try and ensure that persons are remaining compliant. And if it is a matter that there's some shortfall on the organizers, or is it a matter of a lack of personal responsibility from the patrons, and how that whole dynamic plays into sometimes the closure of the event. And that is something that we really want to see coming to an end, or something that we think we could navigate even better. How do you guys feel about that suggestion, or how do we navigate that issue? Because we've seen it even right up until this last closure. How that is. We're suggesting liaisons. How you guys feel about that?
For me, I think the promoter, wholly and solely, should be the liaison to the police when they come. Because sometimes I've been to events, they come and the first thing they do, they go wherever the music be, a band or DJ playing, shut down the music, and then they start to talk. So then there's a lull in the party, a lull in the event. Before they come, check what's going on, pull the promoter outside and say, well, promoter, you're over by, you got more than 150, so you need to get some out. And then let the promoter deal with that. As you say, a liaison officer. Because when
I think it'd be better if there's an independent party who can both interact with the compliance team and the promoter.
Yes,
Yeah.
not them just coming in and doing as
Right,
they like in the
right.
event. Because I've seen that. They come in and ask you, like, you got a permit even before COVID. You have a permit for an event, and they come in and ask you, where is your permit? Like, what stupidness is that? A copy of the permit is supposed to be in the district station. So if I'm keeping the dance in Sandy Point, understand me, and the permit was issued in Bastia, there was supposed to be a copy to say, okay, then a dance is keeping tonight in Sandy Point on Mount Idle for DJ Woodies. They're not supposed to come to me dance and ask me, where is my permit? That's stupidness. You're supposed to know that I have a permit. Not come and go ask me, where my permit be?
Correct.
Russia, what is part of the problem is, right, and I agree with you 100%, Part of the problem.
We finally agree on something tonight?
Yeah, you'll be
This like the third thing. I keep in count.
What is the third out of four? We're doing good. What
Out
now?
of four. So we disagree on one thing.
Yeah.
Moving on.
One of the problems is, right, it's a generational gap as well in terms of philosophies and in terms of worldviews and understanding. We have a bunch of policymakers in the Federation right now that don't see the industry as a legitimate part of the economy and a legitimate means of earning income and feeding families. And that is the root of the problem. If you have people, that don't regard the industry as one that is legitimate, one that is real, one that is necessary for the progression of the economy and to support families, then we'll never get anywhere. So we need.
That's many of us in the industry believe that as well, eh? So.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Yes.
I mean, I have heard policymakers saying, "Well, I could just look a real job."
Yeah.
You check what I'm saying? I have heard policymakers saying, "Why I want fit for? I just increasing crime because people broke and they got to thief money to pay for to go in IFT."
Oh yeah, I've been told that as well.
Oh yeah, Marley, I would pick you up on that and support what you're saying. I have done a lot of research on this in 40 years. Trust me, entertainment is what runs the world.
Okay.
People go to New York to go Broadway, to go to the shows, to go to Central Park for entertainment all over. They go to Vegas. Two things they go for, to gamble and entertainment.
And gambling is entertainment.
It runs the world. Therefore, tourism is entertainment is one of the drivers of tourism. It's what brings people. Is the reason we have the music festival.
Right. And carnival. And carnival.
But not even that.
Exactly. Trinidad without carnival would be nothing.
They'll be a poor country.
The biggest export of Trinidad is music and carnival
and culture and whole. I think what Adrian is saying is that nothing moves without culture, and the vehicle of culture is actually media and entertainment.
Oh yeah.
And so we cannot divorce ourselves from it. No society.
But as in, the entire country and the entire the world.
Yes.
Saw that come to fruition in May of 2020, when both major political parties in St. Kitts and Nevis relied on entertainment and media to get their message across.
Right.
And that's what's baffling me and upsetting me. The fact that these people can see the value in entertainment to accomplish their own agenda. But when it comes to Jade and Azim and Amali and Adrian and Woodis and Gaff, feeding their families, it's a whole different conversation. And
because
that needs to be addressed.
I'm telling you why. The policy makers them don't lie. So how you don't lie? I'm gonna tell me how I should lie and how I should fit and why I want to keep a fit. You understand me? It's okay. Check it out. Election come, they have entertainment. You go to church on Sunday, they have entertainment. You're traveling on a bus, they have entertainment. Every single thing have entertainment.
They go on a plane. The first thing they look for is a moonshine on the plane.
Okay. And then, but at the end of the day, I just want to make a lot of money and make people walk up and bend over. But every single thing, every aspect of their life, the driving, going home, understand me? They stop listening to radio. Everybody got a little pen drive with their own music. What is that? The entertainment? So until we get policymakers that understand the cry of all of us in here, we're gonna be fighting the uphill battle,
Yeah, Adrian, you're saying?
You're absolutely right. And Asim, I think, touched on it earlier. The education process, and this is something from way back. Most of the people and the policymakers, and this is from all the parties in St. Kitts, they do not understand entertainment and the role it plays in society.
Amen.
From the string band coming down the road Christmas time, where people want to see that.
Yeah.
Masquerades, which is indigenous to St. Kitts. And from Elimat from the early 70s right up till now through New Vibe, everything contributes to the economy of St. Kitts. The
Significantly.
reason people come to Carnival is for the music and the same reason they go to Trinidad. Without the entertainment, what would it be like?
Right.
So we have to recognize the fact and educate. It seems to me we're reaching a point where the education process of the people making the policy and the ordinary man in St. Kitts, we have to let them know what the linkages are and the importance of entertainment, whether it's a dance group, a calypsonian, a producer like Corey, you know, who is inputting in a large way into the community. And not only that, in the 70s, you had Eliman traveling the world. What he was doing? Advertising St. Kitts.
Entertainment.
Entertainment,
Any
tourism.
music. Montserrat, people who think Arrow from Trinidad until they realize he's from Montserrat. Was a promotion. Sparrow for Trinidad. All these people who put Bob Marley, put Jamaica on the map. You know, the most recognized figure they say in the 20th century is Bob Marley.
Bob Marley,
Next to Jesus Christ.
And,
what he was doing.
Jesus Christ ain't
playing the
an
guitar.
accurate one.
And there are countries in the
Bob
region.
Marley, you know, it's accurate.
There are countries in the region and territories across the world.
Bob Marley, I mean, not you.
There are countries in the region and territories across the world. I could name Jamaica, Trinidad, and Antigua.
So we have to recognize. We have to recognize the importance of entertainment, whatever facet of it is. You know, and we have Carry Festa, which goes around, but I don't think Carry Festa has really been developed in a way to really showcase and make money. It has been a kind of loose thing. It needs to tighten up. But these are all things that showcase the culture of the Caribbean. But the Caribbean has a lot of things that make money. When they export Carnival to Europe and Toronto and New York for Labor Day and Miami and all over the world, this DJ and that DJ could move around and make money.
But Asia, not just that. Not just that.
At the way forward.
Yeah, you were saying, Amali.
Yeah, not just that. There are countries, it isn't as prevalent here as it is in other territories, but there are territories like Trinidad, Antigua, St. Lucia, Jamaica, even Miami, where people are in entertainment full time.
Bro,
there are people like Azim and their promoters in St. Kitts, like Funds and others, for example, who do entertainment full time.
Service providers in particular.
Yes, people like Loftus, people like Benjiva Tombstone, who do this thing full time.
DJ Robbers, yeah.
DJ Robbers.
And employ other people.
Times, and have staff,
yes.
and have kids to feed. And there are still policymakers in this country who don't see this industry, as one that is legitimate. And that is the problem. There are companies in Trinidad and Miami and so who rely on Trini Carnival and Miami Carnival to pay their bills for the entire year. There are companies that have staff that work full-time for Trini Carnival and Miami Carnival and Jamaica Carnival and Atlanta Carnival. Full-time staff for 7 days out of the whole year. But the problem is, our policymakers in St. Kitts and Nevis don't see this value and don't see this reality. And this conversation is about charting the way forward for St. Kitts and Nevis as well as entertainment and reopening. And my only request is that the government of our day consult and facilitate and liaise with the industry at large to chart a way forward for the reopening of entertainment. Not I wake up Monday morning and hear what the SR will be for the first time.
I think that is what's important here, and that is why we decided to really try and facilitate conversations like this, because we did not want to end up in a situation like that where there are protocols put in place that we just seemingly wake up and recognize and they're there. And not only that, I do believe that it would have been on us as persons involved in the entertainment industry to really and truly not feel away if we didn't have these conversations, if we weren't putting it out there as to what it is we'd like to see. What are some of the things that we think can be done so that as we move forward, the country can both enjoy the benefits of entertainment, media, and culture, as well as remain safe as much as is possible. And so I think that's why it was really important for us to have this conversation. Before we wrap, I'd just like to hear any last words from the panelists. And I'll start where we ended. So Garth, any words before we log off tonight?
Just to say, I'm looking forward to when things start to pick back up again, and when we're able to go out and party again. Because, I mean, vaccinated or unvaccinated, we need to find a way forward, regardless of the, once we have a solid direction, then we can go. That's all I'm saying. I just hope that I can't wait for that moment to happen, for that to become a thing.
I could imagine. Adrian?
I would like us to recognize the big picture and recognize the fact that entertainment, all the facets of entertainment, is not one of, but the major driver of our economy. And once we recognize that, we will start to make the linkages required into the economy. And COVID-19, unfortunately, is one of the things that has slowed us up. But I think maybe in some ways it is making us start to recognize some of the deficiency we have in the society. And therefore, when we start to get up to speed, as Gab just said, that we do so in a manner that we start to have a little bit more respect for the people and the organizations involved in entertainment in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thanks, Adrian. And yeah, I think that it's important for us, as much as we may recognize the value of culture and want to preserve culture, that we also recognize that there's the possibility to commercialize it and to really expand on its economic benefits. Corey, any last words?
Yeah, well, I'd just like to say thanks for inviting me. Thanks to the panelists for making the time. It's always good listening and talking entertainment. My hope is that we can start the real conversations with the stakeholders, and void of the emotions, void of the petty politics, and let's just really sit down and come up with a plan. I know we could do it. I know there's no doubt in my mind that we have the brain power, the experience, the knowledge to do it. We just need to do it. Whether or not we need to wait for the ministry to organize, do we need to wait for, or if we have to wait for PACE to organize, regardless of who, we need to organize and move forward. We're not getting any younger. COVID obviously is here to stay. And COVID is here to stay, and we need to strategize. That's basically it. Yeah, we need to strategize, we need to plan, and we need to be real with the plan.
Right.
Realistic. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to recognize that we, as the ones who are affected by these policies and things going forward, that we need to really put our voice out there in a way that is very hard to ignore. DJ Woodis, any last words?
Couple. This is a nice discussion, and I don't want it to just be a one-time discussion. I think maybe, I don't know for people, but for Corey and the rest, and Adrian, I know Adrian is a very busy man, but if we could have this discussion once a week, understand me, because there's a lot, there's lots of topics that we didn't touch on. So, and maybe we could even invite the entertainment minister, because I yet to see who is the PS. I yet to see what are their plans. I know they're not gonna plans, because it's I can't say a fly by night ministry, it comes. So they got to work with us and ask us what we would like, and yeah, I mean, so we could tailor it, but at least come to us. So I yet to see a meeting with the ministry. I yet to see a lot of things from them. So I guess we should have this conversation ongoing, because if we just have this conversation tonight, a lot of topics haven't been touched on when it comes to entertainment, because certain things like visas, things like no disrespect to the peace program, but the people on the peace program could go to the development bank and get loans at a cheaper rate. So why can't the government just say, okay, then we're going to take $1 million? And $1 million is a small money for Adrian, eh? He usually give it that. Usually give it that, yeah, I mean, say, hold that girl, take $1 million, yeah, I mean. But at least $1 million, and yeah, I mean, at a cheaper rate. So DJs, bands, photographers, and everybody who is in the entertainment industry could go there and take a small little 50,000 for everybody. 50,000 might seem like a little small money for Adrian, eh? But yeah, I mean, but for a man like me, 50,000 is, yeah, I mean, it's a good thing, yeah, I mean, good. So I could actually buy more equipment. So at least when something like COVID come around again, if it does, because they're talking about the second wave, at least we well prepared. Because remember, we only get this Ministry of Entertainment because of COVID, eh? Because when they realize, we got a live, we got entertainment locally, and people lag on. Because usually when election come around, they have to bring in the Berry Salmons and all these things for a mass gathering to happen for them to talk. So thanks to COVID to come around, so we could have a Ministry of Entertainment. A lot of people saying, yeah, I mean, but yeah, I think we should have this conversation again and again and again until the relevant authorities listen. Because if we just come tonight, there's a one shot thing. So we could have it again next week Wednesday if Adrian, yeah, I mean, give it $1 million.
Yeah, what is Miller? You got to say tomorrow.
You like what?
No, man.
Talk to you.
No problem. Make sure it's a woman liar. That's all.
All right, but Amali, any last words?
Well,
had to follow your best friend.
yeah.
Mali can't stop laugh.
My close and personal friend who is. Wait a second.
Ameli he got to agree with me now. So what is it going to be? 5-1?
He looks so.
It's 5-1. 5-1. The ratio is 5-1. I agreed with this.
10-1 is murder, so it's half of that.
That is true. We can't read 10. That's illegal.
But yeah, any last words?
But very quickly, I would like to just see more regard for the industry, and I would like to see more conversations had surrounding policies that affect the industry, and I would actually like to see a stimulus package that is catered specifically to the industry, because
Agreed.
it's one thing to say, yes, the stimulus package that's in effect as we speak, anybody who's in the industry that is registered can go and apply for the assistance, etc. The reality is, it's an unfortunate reality, but it is still a reality.
Yes.
Is that the majority of the industry
It's informal.
Yeah. And part of the reason for that is because of the lack of regard and respect that was given to it in the past. So to say that yes, any entertainer who is registered can go and apply for the stimulus to get $1,000 a month for the next 3 months, you're really only speaking to about 6 or 7 people out of 100. So a sit down needs to be had between the Ministry of Entertainment and the industry itself, the stakeholders, formal and informal, to charter the best way forward as it relates to recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and the way forward for entertainment as a whole in St. Kitts and Nevis. The package that is being offered now will not, and I repeat, will not cut it. It won't even skim the surface of the hurt, of the loss, of the pain, of the depression that has been suffered by the industry of entertainment over the last year and almost a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
So a conversation needs to be had. Minister Byron, PM Harris, needs to be had with the formal and informal stakeholders of entertainment in St. Kitts and Nevis to to chart the way forward, because what's happening now is not going to cut it. Those are my final words.
Yeah, and I really have to agree. And you know, we hear a collaboration between PACE and WINNMedia, and PACE, for instance, has really been having deep discussions and consultations as it relates to you know, some sort of relief and some way to move forward in terms of dealing with the losses that have been incurred by those of us in the industry. And it's something that we really feel passionate about, and I'm so happy to hear that so many of us, I saw the panelists shaking their heads as you were speaking just now, and that is definitely something that we have to do. We're at a place now where, like I said, the hurt is real. We've been asked to do our part to aid in the country getting over the pandemic, and I do think that recognizing that what that meant for so many of us was total loss of income, I think that is something that really needs to be addressed. And so even then, we're at a point now where we're seeing some light, where certain industries are opening. Like I said earlier, we have the tourism industry looking forward to the arrival of a ship tomorrow. And so we really need to also chart a plot our way forward as the entertainment industry. And I'm really happy that you guys were able to come here, join me for this discussion on ways in which we do that. I think we got some very interesting suggestions and viewpoints that we could then build on to continue to put something together that we can say has come from within the industry, and something that we hope to see and maybe work together with the policymakers to make a reality. I'd like to thank everybody who has been listening on the radio, everybody who's been listening online. We have some people who have been commenting on online. Bear in mind that we will, of course, take into consideration some of the comments and the things that you guys would have put together. And to Woodis, who has been suggesting that we do this talk more regularly, I could definitely agree with that. So that is something we definitely would have to look into with our friends at WINNMedia. But I really at this point want to thank all of the panelists again. Thank you so much. This would not have been possible without your contributions, as well as I want to give a special thank you to WINNMedia and for allowing us to use the studios and the facilities to make this a reality. Also, Jay Johnson, who would have been one of the liaisons between PACE and WINNMedia, and would have also contributed in many other ways, facilitating the live stream as well as graphics and stuff of that sort. We really want to thank you and appreciate all you've done to make this a reality.
You're welcome.
She here hiding all the time.
Thank you, Jade, for your input.
She hiding all the time and then come in just to say thank you. But
that's what they be.
No, you gotta say what the girl said. You're welcome.
But guys, again, thank you so much. I do believe that this topic is something that we'll be hearing more about, and I'm sure we are all in a position to continue speaking about it until we see some of the things that we have discussed here tonight become a reality, and possibly even more. Thank you guys. It's been a real pleasure. From PACE, WINNMedia SKN, Meeting of the Minds. It's been great. Thank you and good night.
Good night.